Hello everybody and welcome to this new class in where we're gonna see the CC libraries. To study this new tool, we will continue the previous exercise in where we started designing the cover of a surf magazine. I remind you that we used the AI tool called text to image to generate these different images. So let's go to the point. Let's go to the tool called CC Libraries. Here it is. It is a floating panel. If you don't have it in your workspace, then go over Window, CC Libraries. By clicking and drag, I will isolate this panel and I will make it a little bit bigger. The first thing that we have to understand is that the CC Libraries is a tool inside the Creative Cloud. CC means Creative Cloud. So Creative Cloud Libraries is just one small part of the Creative Cloud. In this class, we will study this little part of the Creative Cloud, the libraries. Here, for instance, I can show you my Creative Cloud account in where we have a lot of things. We are already in the home menu, but we can go to apps, we can go to files, we can go to benefits, we can go to create, we can manage our current plan, we can use the Adobe Firefly AI credits, several things, but right now, in this very moment, we are just interested in the libraries. So once here, we should go over Files, Libraries, and Brands. From the internet, we can see the same libraries that we have already in our apps, in InDesign, Photoshop, Illustrator, or whatever. And from here, we will be able to add new libraries, delete the old ones, and so on. So once we have understood what is the CC libraries, let's see how they work and what are the benefits for us to use them. The first thing that we can check is that we have here 4 libraries. This is just in my case, because I created some of them in the past. These are the same libraries that we have just checked on the cloud, on the Creative Cloud desktop. But now let's work on here. So for instance, the first library is called IDAF Logos. If I click on here, I find 3 more libraries. They work actually as a folders. I have the one called Imagotipo, the one called Vertical, and the one called Horizontal. I'm talking about logos all the time, and I organized them in these different folders. Why? Because in the end, this is something that I am using a lot during my work, and it is super handy to have my own library in all the Adobe apps, so I can use them rapidly without spending time in finding the correct file in the correct folder in my computer or in my hard drive or wherever. It is just here, either if I use Photoshop, Illustrator, or InDesign. So if I want to go back, I just press the little arrow which says back to libraries. Then I go home, and from here I can choose another library. For instance, Logos Adobe. This is another thing that I use a lot. You can imagine the InDesign logo, the Adobe Fonts logo, the Photoshop logo, and the Illustrator logo. So let's go back again. Then we find another library called My Library. This is an automatic one created by Adobe, and we can use it or we can delete it. In my case, this library is empty, so I could just press right click and say delete. I confirm, and this library is already deleted. In the last position, we find the last library, the one called Social Networks. You can imagine, here we can find different logos related with different social networks. So in the end, thanks to these libraries, we are gonna save time, because we will have, in a very handy way, elements that we use a lot. Let's do now a new library for this new project. Let's imagine that we are designing a surf magazine. Then we can create our own library here, because we will jump from InDesign to Photoshop to Illustrator once and over again. We will be working on this project maybe for a month. Imagine that we are working for an agency or whatever, and then we need to have a perfect order with all these different elements which can pop up in our mind. So let's click create new library and let's name it Surf Magazine. Create. The library right now is empty, and we have two ways to add elements. We can click and drag. Let's do it with the sunglasses. Firstly, I select my image and then click and drag, and when the screen is ready, I release. Immediately, this image goes directly to a folder called graphics. It takes several seconds to be totally uploaded because we have to understand that this image is going directly to the Creative Cloud, to the internet. When it's done, we can see it clearly. As I told you, it is inside a folder called graphics, and the automatic name is artwork 1. If we want to change the name, easy. Right click, rename, sunglasses. One click outside, and here we are. The other way to add elements to my library is to select the image, and then once I am inside my desired library, I click on this icon at the bottom called Add Elements. One click on here, then I can choose different things. I want to choose the graphic option, which means an image. If I want to rename it, this time I will double click and I will write down coconut. Finally, let's use this bamboo texture. Click and drag, I release, we gotta wait a few seconds, double click, bamboo texture. So now we have a new library called Surf Magazine with a new folder inside called graphics. I can expand this folder or collapse it, and inside we have 3 images. We will be able to use this library in all new files in InDesign, but in Photoshop, Illustrator as well, Premiere, whatever. Every single app of Adobe. Example, we delete these images and then we want to use the coconut, taking it from here. Click and drag, I select it. Once it's charged on my cursor, I can click and hold, I release, and here we are. We can do the same with the bamboo texture. Click and drag, I click and hold, I release, and here we are. What else we can do with our CC libraries? Well, if we go back, up here we find a search bar. Thanks to the search bar, we'll be able to find everything in a second. Imagine that I write down here coconut. Just with the first 3 letters, one result appears, and then I open this folder and the coconut is here. So very easy to find my files. Related with this search bar, if I go inside one folder, then the search bar changes. Search current library. But if I expand this menu, we can search in Adobe Stock, in the current library, and in all libraries. The current library is Surf Magazine, and all libraries are all the ones we already have seen. So let's use this another option, Adobe Stock. Adobe Stock will provide us with images from the internet, but we will have to pay for them. Let's write down here, for instance, surf. As long as we are searching on that Adobe Stock library, we have a lot of images which can be used in our project. But if I select one, for instance, then it's uploaded in my Surf Magazine library, I can use it in my file. But when we check the image carefully, we can see that it has a watermark. We can read Adobe Stock, right? So it could be nice for making proofs according to our layout, and in case that the client or ourselves are happy with the result, we can continue the process to purchase the image. We should go over this icon where we can read license image. We click on here, we continue. The link goes to the Adobe Stock page, in where we can find the price of the image. Going back again to the home menu, if we move down, we can read 2 labels. Browse shared libraries, in case that someone is sharing libraries with us, and go to Stock and Marketplace. First option, browse shared libraries. Once I click it, this message appears. There is no library shared, so nothing to explore here right now. And if we move down, go to Stock and Marketplace, we'll find different libraries free to use, which is kind of interesting, right? Let's click on this library called Web Gradients. This Web Gradient is already open inside the label Libraries and Brands, which is inside the label called Files in my Creative Cloud desktop. And once the library is open, we can click on Add. Web Gradients added to your libraries. Okay, we go back to InDesign and we can see this cloud with the sign scene icon on. We have to wait a little bit while all the elements of that library are already downloaded, and once it's done, we can read in our home library Web Gradients. We go in and we find a lot of different folders with the different gradients. Maybe we can use some of them in our Surf magazine. So I'll go to Pages. I will create 2 new pages for the interior. I scroll down in my new library till I find a color that I like. For instance, this one called Night Fade. Click and hold to control the size of my new element. And here we are, our element, which can be adjusted to this spread, right? We have to understand that this gradient is not a vector, it's not a color fill. It is still an image. If I go inside the image frame, double click, what we find is an image with this gradient. So in case that we want to occupy the whole spread, the whole image frame, we should use the fitting options. Right click, fitting, fill frame proportionally. And here we are. So one creative idea for this magazine could be to use in every single spread a different gradient. Similar, but at the same time a little bit different. This way we could create rhythm with the color, playing with the main colors that we chose, in this case, in the cover. Anyways, going back, we have already seen the main things about this CC library. Just take in mind that we can use as well this add icon from the home menu, and then from here we can use these both same options, browse shared libraries and go to stock and marketplace. We can create new libraries as we were doing before, and we can use this another tool that we saw in a previous episode of the course, extract from image. This tool is available here. I will not explain how it works because we have a specific video about it. It's a very powerful tool in order to get a type from an image. So I strongly recommend you to see that video. But now it's time to say goodbye. I hope that you have enjoyed the class and I see you in the next class.